Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, please, if you could take your seats. We should start with the first session of our conference on cooperation in the field of human rights, and we have a large panel of speakers. If you could please take your seats. So, as we had our opening, we have heard about the main focus of the neighborhood cooperation priorities for Kazakhstan 2024-2027. We will go now into more detail, and we have the pleasure to hear from a number of very high-ranking speakers in the field of human rights. Without further ado, I would call on to start your presentation Mr. Ayvar Sabasov, head of the unit at the Office of the Commissioner for Human Rights. Please, you have the floor.
Dear participants, I would like to express gratitude for this opportunity. Partnership and cooperation became the foundation of the democracy, and this is a relevant issue nowadays when we need to make the steps in order to strengthen the national system of the legal framework and enhancing the legal framework. And of course, institutes of the commissioner as well is something that is necessary. Constitution of 2022 had actually changed the ombudsman's mandate, and the law gives the immunity, protects from any kind of interventions, unjustified interventions, which actually enhances the potential. During the development of the amendments, we had been through Venice Commission, we had been cooperating, and Venice Commission had made their own recommendations, most of which had been taken into consideration and had been implemented. And nowadays we see the interest from the civil society being enhanced and escalated, and the role of the representatives of the ombudsmen being in the regions is actually the reason why this interest had been strengthened from the society. And also this was the recommendation from the Venice Commission. It had been created in 2013 Ombudsman Plus model, which actually provides the cooperation with the civil societies as well as the non-government entities. And Ombudsman is actually person or entity which is the bridge between the government as well and civil societies and population. In this context, I would like to highlight the beginning of the new era of the cooperation, the joint project with the Council of Europe, which will last until 2026, and which will strengthen the Human Rights Institute and will align it with the international standards. This project covers the spectrum of the responsibilities, the regional representatives as well as Ombudsman itself, and sectors of the government entities. We are going to implement it in terms of the national plan, and it's going to be the practical step for the sustainable legal framework in the country. Council of Europe traditionally support the development of the Institute of the Ombudsman, and we know that this project is going to be the important step for the development and practical real implementation of the neighboring countries. Thank you so much for your attention.
This concise introduction, and thank you for pointing out the work of the Venice Commission in furthering and strengthening the position of the Ombudsman in Kazakhstan. With this, we turn to the next speaker, Mr. Yerlan Saparov, Deputy Head of the Apparatus of the Constitutional Court. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Dear speaker, dear participants of this conference, I'm happy to see you on this conference, which is dedicated to the priorities of the cooperation between Council of Europe and Kazakhstan from 2024 to 2027. We highly appreciate the cooperation with Council of Europe. I would like to dwell into some of the indicators that will cover the number of the key areas for our country: human rights and protection of the human rights, the development of which had been initiated by the head of the state, reforms, and we accept with arms wide open the one-on-one initiatives, the zero tolerance to the tortures and the measures for the prevention of the excessive intervention from the government bodies into the private lives of the population. And of course, the limitation of the freedom, which actually is something that checks whether foundation is strong or not. And of course, those boundaries that had been set by the legal framework is important. In this regards, the Constitutional Court highlights the sustainability and supports the Council of Europe enhancement of our legal framework. Since the Constitutional Court had been established in 2023, we had already amended 71 normative decrees, which also connected to the procedural crime procedural code. Constitutional Court had also acknowledged the automatic or on default limitation of the freedom of those who are under the litigations or under the suspicious, as well as had reconsidered the control over those who are under the procedure of scrutiny. This illustrates that this decision is quite comprehensive and which will transform all of the practice. Constitutional control will also promote will prevent any kind of interventions that might be found excessive. As constitutional control shall be mandatory for the execution. Institutional novella had been implemented into the Constitutional Court decision, and in this regard, we're going to coordinate the procedure in the crime litigations, which is the recommendation of the Constitutional Court, giving it to the hands of the neutral body, will actually eliminate the conflict of the interest and make the consideration of the human rights more efficient. Indicators and support of the National Institutes on the Human Rights, Article 1.1, will expand the mandate and competences of the Institutes of the Human Rights Protection. The Ombudsman's mandate will be also provided, as well as the officials which will identify any kind of unfulfillment of this mandate. So in this regard, we would like to offer first indicator for the human rights protection to consider other government institutes as the judicial system, judicial administration, Ministry of Justice, and prosecutor's office, as well as bodies of the constitutional control. We would like to also consider the issue of the expanding the priority 1.1 human rights protection, principles of the undiscrimination and equality, which actually will cover the bigger spectrum of the guarantee of the human human rights protection. Constitution of the Republic of Kazakhstan also prohibits the discrimination and guarantee the equal rights and freedom for all of the citizens. In this regard, we need to have subsequent steps that any kind of discrepancies shall have objective constitutional justifications. For example, Constitutional Court had acknowledged the abuse of the rights for those who are not in marriage, in legal marriage, or doesn't have the certificate being appointed for the custody of their common children. Support of the victims of the Semipalatinsk nuclear testings, priority areas 2.1 institute, which had been established on the rule of law, for which we would like to extend gratitude to the Council of Europe for the trainings, best practices in rule of law, representatives of the officials and representatives of the judicial system. We would like to also, we would be appreciate if these kind of trainings will cover not only judges, but also the officials and civil servants that work in a court, as well as all of the administration of the court. Modern methods of the management is actually oriented towards the long-term, sustainable, systematic approach. We would like to extend gratitude for including the indicators that will enhance the quality of all of the constitutional complaints. Any kind of appeal or complaint that comes to the Constitutional Court actually will need the comprehensive consideration, and this international format will be aligned together with national peculiarities. Based on national legal framework, we would like to not just limit ourselves with the Ministry of Justice, but also understanding and consider the analysis of other governmental bodies. This kind of regulation will allow us to exchange our experience and would also demonstrate readiness of our country in order to join into the number of the conventions of the Council of Europe. We would also like to extend gratitude for being in the positions of the quantity of the judicial decisions that had been presented by the Venice Commission, which also will include all of the government bodies into this dialogue, will also form our legal framework and make it more efficient. Organizing joint events as the international conferences, which are dedicated to 75th Declaration Jubilee of the Human Rights, as well as the HELP International Conference, all of it became possible due to your help that you have rendered. The organ of the body of the constitutional control is the member of the Constitutional Justice. Starting from 2013, we are the active participant of the Legal Exchange Forum. In this regard, we had already considered 27 appeals from different members, state members. We also studying the legal committee, and we had already considered all of the meetings and resolutions of the meetings and more than 40 drafts of the Commission. Twice a year, we also publish all of our decrees and decisions in our website, Venice Commission. After participating on meetings with Venice Commission, Constitutional Court on regular regime sends all of its decisions and resolutions to different government bodies in order for them to utilize those decisions. And of course, we are ready to be the coordinator for the interaction with Venice Commission. In conclusion, I would like to extend gratitude for participation as well as your contribution into our Europe Neighbourhood Cooperation priorities, and I would also like to express gratitude and I would like to for your work, and I would like to invite to our forum that will be soon regarding the 30th of the Constitution.
Points. The Constitutional Court is a very young body, and it's still strengthening its position in the institutional framework of Kazakhstan, and we have seen that the court has a strong intention and will to go forward. Thank you very much for this, and with this we move to Mr. Duman Omarov, Head of International Relations Department of the Kazakh Court Administration. Please.
Thank you very much. Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги.
Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. Let me extend gratitude for being here. The cooperation with Council of Europe and Venice Commission is constructive and has the long-term character. We had already gone through from the strengthening our relations for the provision of the rule of law as well as enhancing the efficiency of the legal framework. In recent 2 years, we had continued our close cooperation, especially with Council of Europe and its bodies. And during this period, we had already conducted a number of measures and events which actually contributed into the integration of international practices into our national capacity and national legal framework. Constitutional court that had been opened with had been established with Mr. Nurgaliyev. During this visit, during this event, we had been paid a visit by different structures as the Council of Europe officials as well as the Venice Commission officials and representatives. We also had participated in the plenary sessions, and we had also concluded the memorandum on cooperation. And conclusion of the memorandum actually proves our strive and desire to implement the best court practices and provide a rule of law and protection of human rights. Nowadays, we are in the verge of the discussions of the Council of Europe Neighbourhood Cooperation priorities from 2024 to 2027. So what transitions we're going to conduct? First of all is the justice system, efficient justice system. The priority is to enhance the quality of the work of the civil servants as well as the officials and government bodies. Second, the appellation strengthening the appellation courts, which means that the court will consider the appellations without going back to the first instance of the courts. That will actually eliminate or reduce the mistakes that judges might make. Third, the juvenile court mandate in any of the case, more or less, we do touch upon the rights of children. Fourth, the creation of the cassational or the Supreme Court mandates, which will be identified and focused on the standards of the human rights protection framework. Second block of the enhancement of the independence of the courts.
Here we define the amount of budget is not defined by the government. They have the autonomy which supports its independence. Starting from last year, we have implemented several systems in regional courts. The candidates are elected by the local representatives, which adds transparency to the system and makes the system more transparent and more easy to understand. The next step, the main point of digitalization is creation of tools for the populations, which will enable population to interact with the government. As of now, 95% of documents are applied online, and this service allows to pay the taxes and other payments to the government online. These days we can be we can say that we have made that transition to the digital government. We have huge data center which has been accumulated within 15 years. We have worked with millions of documents which have been transferred, and 15 millions of judicial decisions have been transferred into the digital format. This has enabled us to adapt and implement the assistance to the judges. We have launched the digital practices for courts. This program can compare the decisions, and it can find the anomalies and disputes. This will be the basis of the judicial practices. It will be seen as for all the judicial process. This helps the citizens to estimate their chances whether to continue the dispute or to find the compromise. In 2022, we have implemented the territorial judicial system. When the documents are distributed evenly, and starting from March, this institute has started working in administrative system. This is the step to make the judicial system transparent, independent, and human-oriented. Dear colleagues, the reforms that we are working on are aimed at the same goals as those of Council of Europe. The rule of law and the human rights. This is why we are considering the cooperation with the Council of Europe as strategic cooperation, which will allow us to move forward to the reforms in judicial system of Kazakhstan. We appreciate your support and we are open to further cooperation, as within the new programs and through the dialogue. Thank you very much for your attention.
About your ambitious reform agenda and also pointing out how advanced Kazakhstan and your judiciary is in the field of IT, and this is a good path you are progressing on, and I think others even can learn from your experience. With this, we move to a different topic, and I would like to give the floor to Mr. Kochenkov, the Vice Minister of the Ministry of Culture and Information. You have the floor, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Berset. First of all, good afternoon, or how we'll speak in Kazakhstan, Khairli Kun. First of all, I want to apologize because early I attended in a different problem, media and cultural issues, but now I switched to the focus on human rights and gender policy. So I will glance in at my notes from time to time, I promise. Thank you. Of course, it's a great honor to address you today at this important session dedicated to human rights. Let me express gratitude to the Council of Europe for organizing this platform and to share information on the Republic of Kazakhstan implementation of its commitments in the area of gender policy, one of the most important human rights area. Since joining the Beijing Declaration, Kazakhstan has pursued the development of sustainable gender policy. The goals of Kazakhstan's national gender policy are to achieve equal rights and opportunities for men and women in all spheres of public life, and to eliminate all forms and manifestation of gender-based discrimination. Let me introduce some key advancements. First of all, and foremost, is the legal framework that serves as the foundation for gender equality. The Constitution of Kazakhstan guarantees equal rights and opportunities for every citizen. In 2022, a president decree updated the family and gender policy concept of the Republic of Kazakhstan until 2030, focusing on the promotion and advancement of women's rights and opportunities in society, along with the adoption of an updated action plan for its implementation. Legislative quotas have been introduced requiring a minimum of 30% representation of women, youth, and persons with disabilities in the electoral party lists. An action plan for promoting equal rights and opportunities for men and women for 2024 till 2027 has been adopted. In every region of the country, the position of part-time hakim of the major in a European practice, advisors of gender equality have been established. Another important institutional mechanism is the National Commission of Women's Affairs and Family and Demographic Policy, established in 1998. One of those goals is to protect and promote women's rights. Its commission work under the President of Republic of Kazakhstan. To ensure equality assessment of the situation in Kazakhstan, statistics and research are essential. The official website of National Statistics feature a dedicated section on gender statistics where all key indicators are published. Within the structure of the Kazakhstan Institute for Public Development, Center for Family and Gender Policy Research operates. Another direction, its international cooperation, is another important mechanism. United Nations structure in Kazakhstan, the World Bank and the other partners assist in methodological support in Kazakhstan's fulfillment of its commitments. In pursuit of the goal and objectives of the concept, a joint grant has been implemented since 2022 by the Ministry and United Nations Women. In 2023, within the framework of the regional program for Central Asia and Afghanistan, supported by the government of Kazakhstan and European Union, the Central Asia Alliance for the elimination of gender-based violence was launched in Almaty. Today, there is a clear understanding in Kazakhstan that without the involvement of women in the economy and political life, it will be impossible to bring the country to a new level of economic development. Women make up something 51% of total population in Kazakhstan. The government is implementing measures to develop and support women in entrepreneurship through state programs and projects, including consultation, training, financial assistance, and something different financial tools. There is also a project focused on engaging women in the IT sector. Furthermore, initiatives aimed in increasing women's and girls' leadership and political participation are being implemented. As a result, Kazakhstan has achieved notable progress in gender equality in line with international indicators and CDG 5. Kazakhstan is ranking in the first group of countries with a very high level of gender parity in the Human Development Index. According in 2023 OECD Social Institution and Gender Index, Kazakhstan is classified as a country with a low level of discrimination against women. In addition, international partners have acknowledged Kazakhstan's global contribution to the implementation of the Generation Equality Forums Action Coalition and the Beijing +30 process. Kazakhstan participates in 3 of the 6 action coalitions: gender-based violence, economic justice and rights, and technology and innovation for gender equality. I am confident that our joint efforts and cooperation will lead to significant progress in this lead. Thank you for your attention. Көп рахмет сіздерге.
Thank you for raising this really important aspect, which is also central to all our cooperation projects at the Council of Europe. Gender is a transversal topic, which of course is directly addressed in projects which deal, for example, with violence against women, but in all areas, including economic crime, in all fields, the question of gender is a very important issue. Thank you for raising this point. We would then turn to Mr. Ali Jardemov, the Deputy Head of Service of the Prosecutor General's Office. You have the floor, please.
Thank you. Можно будет, да? Слайд.
Could you please turn on the presentation? Dear colleagues, good day.
On behalf of the Prosecutor General Office, I'm honored to address today's conference and thank organizers for this opportunity to share our experience. While many Kazakhstan human rights achievements have already been highlighted today, I'd like to say something about the Prosecutor's Office role in this area. And let me begin with the criminal procedure reforms. Since 2021, we have implemented new criminal procedure model inspired by European best practices from such countries like Germany, Austria, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden. And this new model separates three powers: investigator, prosecutor, and judge, strengthening legal safeguards in the criminal procedure. Now, key investigative decisions, such as declaring a suspect or filing charges, require prior prosecutorial approval. Without this approval, such decisions have no longer any force anymore. Through this filter, we have reviewed 1.5 million decisions and prevented 120,000 unlawful acts during this period of time. In the next phase, since 2022, prosecutors started drafting indictments in serious and corruption-related cases, minimizing bias and increasing objectivity in the process. To support these reforms, we're actively using digital tools. Since 2017, pretrial investigations have been fully digitized. Investigators, prosecutors, and judges work in a unified online system. Subpoena sent via SMS, complaints are submitted by a public portal, and even forensic and legal aid are accessed via expertise and legal aid applications. And today, 90% of criminal cases are handled electronically. We are also integrating AI and facial recognition in public surveillance, which has helped us to locate more than 2,500 wanted individuals. And one of our most urgent priorities is the fight against torture, of course. Since 2023, only prosecutors can investigate such cases, and duty prosecutors make daily and unannounced visits to police and penitentiary facilities. In 2024, we completed a nationwide installation of video surveillance in penitentiary system and in police facilities. Almost 70,000 cameras now cover every corner of police and penitentiary institutions. There are no longer any blind spots there. Inmates can now report abuse directly through interviews, reviews, and 612 digital terminals that connect them directly to prosecutors, courts, and ombudsmen, bypassing any prison staff. As a result, torture complaints dropped from 180 in 2021 to just 6 last year. And we place great importance on the protection of victims, especially those affected by human trafficking and violence, domestic violence. In 2024, we passed a new anti-trafficking law ensuring support to victims regardless of their nationality. Penalties were also increased for violence against women and children, and sexual crimes against minors no longer can be settled by reconciliation. To protect our younger generation, we launched the Happy and Safe project, URPAK. Mobile teams visited 115,000 families and helped defend the rights of over 88,000 children, addressing their housing, health, social needs, and others. Another key area is the protection of business, of course, and support for investors. Every year we host business protection forums to address challenges and find solutions. We have created hotlines, front offices, mobile teams to handle business complaints. Using also digital tools, we prevent illegal inspections and monitor enforcement actions in real time. Thanks to these efforts, tens of thousands of entrepreneurs are protected each year. Inspections dropped fourfold for 5 years, and business-related requirements have decreased by 2/3. Under presidential directives, prosecutor oversee all major decisions impacting investors. Together with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, we digitized the national investment projects pool. Projects, and we currently support more than 1,000 projects with a total value of $105 billion US. Prosecutors guide investors from the beginning, from the application until the final launch of the project, and resolving risk and ensuring all government agencies fulfill their obligations. For example, we helped a Swiss investor secure government support for critical infrastructure for the more than $192 million US project. In total, we, for now, have resolved around 700 such cases, protecting 1,000 investors for total investments exceeding $35 billion US. And I must say, this system has received a strong support from the business community. Finally, let me touch on our work in international arena. Of course, our office serves as Kazakhstan's central authority for legal cooperation in criminal matters. For now, we are party to 35 multilateral treaties, including 26 UN conventions, and we have signed 82 bilateral agreements with 37 countries, including 34 agreements with 14 European countries such as Spain, Italy, France, Czech Republic, UK, and others. Right now we are currently working on joining several Council of Europe conventions related to criminal matters. These partnerships greatly expand our international collaboration, of course, and since, for example, since 2016, Kazakhstan and the EU have held annual dialogues on human rights and law enforcement, and the last meeting was on March in Brussels. We discussed some very important topics like civil society, torture prevention, and migration. Together with European countries, we participate in joint projects like KADAP, BOMKA, Leica, and work together with Venice Commission, CARIN, the Greco networks. In the academic field, since 2021, we partnered with the Council of Europe in the Help in Central Asia program. And last year in Astana, our Law Enforcement Academy and Office of the Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe conducted 10 training courses on anti-trafficking, cybercrime, women's leadership, and other topics. And this collaboration continues this year as well. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I just want to express Kazakhstan's strong commitment to further cooperation with Council of Europe on all relevant issues on the current agenda, especially on human rights protection, crime prevention. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you a productive conference. Thank you.
Thank you for this really interesting overview how you use IT and technical means to protect human rights. I suppose you have also in place the necessary safeguards, and but this is something indeed where I mentioned it before, where other countries can have a look and see what in which direction it is possible to go and how far. Thank you also for pointing out the importance of international cooperation, and this is in fact why we are here, and therefore I would like to thank you for highlighting this point. We would then move to the Deputy Chair of the Committee in the Ministry of Digital Development, Innovations and Aerospace Industry, Mr. Iskandar Tazibekov. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much.
Just a second, I'm going to continue. I'll try to be quick. I'll try to be brief and concise so that we could have time in order to discuss the pressing matters. Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen and participants of this conference. Today I would like to talk about how Kazakhstan is changing and shifting the paradigm regarding the protection of the human rights. So nowadays we're living in an epoch or the times when the technologies are intervening into the private life of the citizens. And we know that we're living digital trace everywhere where we go. So in this regard, since 2013, we have a special law on the personal data and protection of the personal law, which actually regulates the processing of the private data, personal data, and storage of the personal data. So the Ministry of the Digitalization, Innovation and Aerospace Industry in Kazakhstan, we are considering all of the appeals as well as the inquiries regarding the breach of the personal data usage. So first of all, service control of the access to the eGov personal data, because there you can give the permission to transfer your data or hand over the information regarding your personal data to another entities. Second, the function of the stop credit. Any citizen can actually prohibit to lay out any kind of loan, mortgage, or credit onto your name. So this is something that we could initiate. Another thing that we have launched, Citizens Seek.kz, Nomad Guard, and on the portal eGov, we also publish video clips in order to give instructions regarding the cybersecurity. We had also conducted 40,000 people training on cybersecurity. We trained 40,000 people on cybersecurity, and we have also strengthened the responsibility regarding the breach of the personal data. For example, the fines for breaching the personal data, the fine had been increased 3 times for physical persons. For the legal entities is even higher. You cannot have the copy of the ID card. It is very important because that is how the leakage of the information happens. On the nearest prospectus, we had planned new steps. Mandatory cybersecurity for the operators that operate with data, especially personal data. The criminal responsibility for leakage of the personal data. Also very important that 180 plus convention joining to this convention. And we are ready to talk regards to this with the Council of Europe. So digital security is not only a digital issue, it's the issue of the trust between the government and societies and population. So that is why Kazakhstan nowadays is following the path of this security, the trust, so that our people would feel secure. Thank you so much.
This is the direct reply to the safeguards which I was mentioning before, data protection. And thank you very much for pointing out that you're ready to work on 108 plus. Indeed, this is our convention where we deal with this, and so I think we will have good cooperation in this field also with Kazakhstan. Thank you for this. With this, let me please turn to the colleagues from the Council of Europe, who, after this impressive overview of where you see scope for cooperation with the Council of Europe, also on the practical side, we would like to provide at least some replies, and therefore I first call on Mr. Sergei Dikman from the Department of Implementation of Human Rights, Justice and Legal Cooperation Standards of the Council of Europe. Please, you have to.
Thank you very much, Schnuts. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and in fact I will be really short because much of what I plan to say has already been mentioned by colleagues. I mean, what we did, what the Council of Europe achieved together with national partners in the past years. I would just like to stress that despite occasionally the Council of Europe has been working with Kazakhstan since late 90s, at least when it comes to the Venice Commission, cooperation sector kicked in a bit later, and we mostly started intensive cooperation under the previous NCP, and in particular under the large regional program Rule of Law in Central Asia, which lasted from 2020 till 2024. And our sector was responsible for raising awareness on human rights and rule of law standards, and basically lifting up increasing the visibility and recognition of the Council of Europe in Kazakhstan. I think we succeeded in this. In practice, despite the program lasted for 4 years, in practice we worked a bit over 2 years, and in this relatively short period I think we achieved quite a lot. So we jumped on very important topics such as prevention of fight against ill treatment and torture, because we started shortly after the infamous events of January 22, so the topic was very high, and we started our activities more or less at the time when the Prosecutor General Office received the exclusive power to become the coordinator to investigate cases of ill treatment and torture. So we managed to organize at least one large-scale and high-level conference in Almaty 2 years ago, which brought together, where we managed to bring not only our standards, but also the experience of various European countries and the experience and standards of the European Committee for the Prevention of Torture and Ill Treatment, the CPT. At the same time, we built extensive networks, so we got to know relevant national institutions in charge of building capacity of legal professionals, of judges, prosecutors, of lawyers as well. So we worked quite a lot with the bar, with the Kazakhstan Bar Association. So we managed for less than 2 years, we trained on various Council of Europe standards more than 400 legal professionals altogether. In particular, we used the very important tool, the Council of Europe Program on Human Rights Education for Legal Professionals, HELP, which is the tool which ensures the sustainability of our training efforts. So we built a network of 30 HELP tutors within the system of prosecutorial and judicial trainings. We adapted to the Kazakh legal context 2 courses, a course on ethics of judges and the course of prevention of ill treatment. And then we also did quite a number of activities on related to prevention of gender-based violence, and it also coincided with the work which Kazakhstan conducted on the adoption of the law on prevention of domestic violence, which was adopted last year. So I tend to believe that our humble efforts also contributed to this process. So all in all, the results which were achieved under the first NCP served as a basis for our proposals for the new NCP, which you definitely read and which some of the previous speakers referred to. And in particular, this concerns the continuous work with judges and prosecutors, with the Law Enforcement Academy, with the Judicial Academy, further work with Ombudsperson institution, and in particular the work on continuous reform of criminal procedure. And I was pleased to listen to a colleague from the Prosecutor General Office that, because I learned quite a lot of elements which I was not aware, and now we can tailor our initiatives for further work even better to more reflect the actual needs of Kazakh partners. So I would really like to thank our main counterparts in Kazakhstan, which are the Supreme Court, the Prosecutor General Office, Law Enforcement Academy, Judicial Academy, the Ombudsperson institution, and of course the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, both here in Astana, but also the Consulate General in Strasbourg, without whom we could not have achieved what we managed to achieve. And I would also like to encourage further funding for to allow us to continue the work which is very relevant for Kazakhstan. And we just had for the 2 days a series of meetings with my colleague here in Astana, and we found that the demand for European practice, for European standards is quite high. So we stand ready to provide it further. We already have one planned initiative which we hope to start in autumn, but it will be limited in scope and in topics. But in principle, our sector works on a wide range of topics, including judicial independence, justice reforms, support to development of national human rights action plans, support to national human rights institutions, and also such more like specific topics as business and human rights, where we start our initiatives in some of the European countries, and we will be pleased to share our experience. I would stop here, and I'm pleased to now to pass a little back to give the floor to Kenul. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this overview of past cooperation, which is also important to see what we have done so far, and in order to understand where we can go to, and also for raising absolutely an essential point, funding, of course, our neighborhood cooperation priorities. We can implement them only if we have sufficient funding, and this is, of course, a strongly limiting factor, but we try, of course, to fundraise with our member states in order to and also other donors to achieve as much as possible, because we have heard so much about what you ask us to do, and we want to deliver. We are ready to do so, but of course this depends on needs. With this, please, Konul Gasimova, head of the unit in the Department of Implementation of Human Rights, Justice and Legal Cooperation, if you could talk to us about our cooperation.
Thank you very much, Knut. Actually, I'm really happy to be here today, to listen to all of you and to understand once more how our cooperation activities are in line with your priorities, human rights protection priorities in Kazakhstan. Dear Knut, we started with Anvar Sabirov speaking about our project with Commissioner for Human Rights. I will, if you permit me, in a few words to come back to that point. Actually, we already started this project with Commissioner for Human Rights, of course, in the framework of our neighborhood cooperation policies. Actually, the project was launched in December 2024. We are in full implementation, but we are organizing the launching conference on 13th of June. I know that you should have already received the invitations to our conference, opening conference, but I would like to once again reiterate our invitation. We would be really delighted to have you all in our opening conference. So what we are aiming to achieve in this project, as Anwar already started to speak about it, actually we will be supporting the Office of Human Rights Commissioner to enhance their institutional and operational capacities. Of course, for institutional capacities, we will be working on their strategy for enhancement of their work. As Human Rights Commissioner is one of the key players in implementation of Human Rights Action Plan of Kazakhstan. And we will work on their strategy, try to support them in the roadmap of implementation of that strategy. We will support their work in enhancing the institutional capacity to handle individual complaints. And then, of course, with great pleasure to support the trainings of their staff. The second, so institutional and operational capacity building, let's say, and the second very important point would be public outreach. We will support the efforts of the Office of Commissioner for Human Rights, actually to raise the awareness of the public, general public, about the role, mandate, and how to send the complaints to the Commissioner Office, and actually to support them for greater accessibility of general public to Human Rights Commissioner and responsiveness of the Commissioner's Office to the needs of the public. So we will also work with a national preventive mechanism coordinated by the Commissioner Office and strengthen their cooperation actually to better protect human rights in the country. Our project will provide tools and guidance to enhance the effectiveness of their mandate. The project aims also to enhance the cooperation in the country between the Office of Commissioner for Human Rights, NPM, civil society, and other institutions, government institutions in the country. And we hope to do that via meaningful, regular dialogue, working groups, roundtables, and exchanges. So we really believe that Council of Europe brings to this partnership very unique combination of targeted expertise, strategic advice, and practical support. We will support the Office of Commissioner for Human Rights with methodological guidance, peer-to-peer exchanges. We really will try to bring very good European practices, and in cooperation with all national partners and international partners here present, to ensure that the project is aligned with real needs of the country. So at the end, I would like to thank Anwar Sabirov and the Office of Commissioner for Human Rights for their cooperation so far under this project, and really look forward to continuing and deepening our cooperation in the months ahead. Thank you very much for your attention, and as a human rights lawyer, for all your commitments to protection of human rights in Kazakhstan. Thank you. Rahmet.
Thank you. This concludes this very rich first session. Thank you, Konul, also for pointing out that you're already working with your project and you have in the middle of implementation. This is good to see that we make progress in this field and in this important project. This concludes our first session, and I would like to thank all speakers for your rich interventions, your contribution to our joint work, and I'm sure that this gives us a lot of inspiration to go on further and to deepen our cooperation. Thank you very much. Thank you. And with this, I would like to call on the speakers of the next session to take your chairs, please, and so that we can continue